Hey guys, this is RC. Welcome back to a new tutorial, sort of, for DDS college football, Draft Day Sports College Football, a 2017 release from Wolverine Studios, Wolverine Software Studios. Gary Gorski owns the company. Brooks Pidgett is the lead designer and developer for this particular game. And I am in a league over at Sim Nation, which is a gaming community, sports simulation games. And we actually have a couple of leagues using this game. I am in one called SNCFL, Sim Nation College Football, and I run the LSU Fighting Tiger program. Um, in all honesty, I am having some major issues with the game at this point, and I'm not very happy. Doesn't mean that I'm right. I will preface by saying that, but I think I have some valid concerns. I have voiced those concerns to some extent. I have basically been told to shut up and deal with it, not by Wolverine directly, but by people speaking on behalf of Wolverine, not Gary or Brooks, but other people in the league itself that are basically spokespeople for Wolverine as far as this game goes. That our views are basically unfounded. So let me kind of go through what my issues are, or some of the issues that I'm having. I will give some feedback based on what I have been told. And again, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. It's just there are some things that I think are issues, and I want to bring them to light in the video, but then I also want to do this more as a tutorial showing what I've done in the past 2 seasons of recruiting in the league, and some things that I have been told to try, and then we will try those things here and see if we have any success. So having said that, let's look at the game. I'm here at the LSU main page. Now, let me kind of do a recap. Now, I don't have my league file pulled up. This is a new league I have started for this video series, but it's pretty similar. I mean, it's LSU. It's a 90 prestige team. Now, this fluctuates immensely because I had to scrap my initial first 2 or 3 videos because I had done something wrong. I screwed up a little bit in the setup and preparation, and I did not want that to affect the outcome. So what I noticed was we were like the number 34 rated class the last time I started for the purpose of this video. This time we have the number 68 class from last year. It seems like a pretty big fluctuation. And if recruiting works the way they say it does, how does LSU ever get the number 68 ranked recruiting class in the country? I mean, that would be a valid question. How does this happen? The game probably should not generate them getting such a crappy recruiting class to start the game. I mean, they're only the number 3 program in the preseason poll. They're only one of the top prestige teams in the country. This is 2017, so they were a top 10 program in real life, so that's probably how it's coded in. How does this happen? Anyway, that's question number 1. Now, going to my online league, my first year I recruited in, my philosophy is there should be more than one way that you can skin a cat, to use the old saying. You should be able to basically get to the end result by multiple paths. There should not be just one set way to do anything. I shouldn't have to be, that would be like saying that, to be successful, you have to run a balanced offense. You've got to run the ball and pass the ball the same number of times to be successful, which means a A pass-heavy spread option attack would not work, and a wishbone attack would not work. And in reality, those should all be viable offenses to win games at the end of the day. So anyway, my first season I tried it one way, which pretty close to the prescribed way. In fact, I would say it was directly in line with the prescribed way. And when I say prescribed way, it's with the problems I've had in this current season. I've had somebody come back and look at my game file and say, well, basically you're screwing up. And this is how you want to do it. And I said, well, that's how I did it last year. And I didn't have much more success. So my first season in the actual league that we're playing in, I did it one particular way, and I ended up with the number 45 ranked recruiting class in the country. Not very good for LSU and a 90 prestige team. I don't get hung up on the school name because if you're playing with fictional names, but that should be what I'm basing it on. A 90 prestige team should probably be in the top 10 or 15 classes in the country. And then my current season, so that year I went 9-3 during the season. I won my bowl game, so I finished 10-3, and I finished in the top 15 in the final season poll. This current year, we're in week 11. I am number 1 in the country. I am 11-0, and I have signed a grand total of 3 players. I have lost over 40 in that same period of time. That's 40 players that I have actively recruited, made a scholarship offer to. Not just players on my board, but players that had an offer from me. Now, again, in fairness, I was told that, well, you're doing it wrong, and I was trying a different plan of attack. I was trying a different recruiting game plan because what I tried last year, which was close to the prescribed formula, was not working. So I assumed that there was more than one way to skin a cat, as I said, but now I'm being told that no, there's pretty much only one way to do it, and if you don't do it that way, then you screw yourself over. So I don't like that. I think that anytime you only have one route that you can go to be successful in something, doesn't make a lot of sense. So let's get caught up to, I'm going to have to play the games. I'm going to have to sim the season out to do recruiting because it takes place during the season. But I still want to do a little mini tutorial to kind of get people up to this point. So the first thing we have is training camps. So when we go to training, it tells you that you can have a max of 25 points. Here's your tip of the day. Evidently, if you go over 22, there is a chance for bad things to happen. You can put 25 points, so you could raise this up to 7-6, 7-6, or any combination thereof. But the closer you are to 25, the more things that can go wrong. You could have players that bust out. You could have players that regress, and this is basically due to overworking or being right at 100% in spring practice. So 22 is the default. That seems to be a pretty safe number. I do not know if there's any prescribed numbers to put in here to get the best or optimal results. So I'm just going to save that, and we're going to go with it, and we're going to run training camps. You can set recruiting there, and here's what we're talking about. Now, see, when I did this the first time around, I didn't have anybody with a negative. Okay, so we've got a guy with an 8 positive, but this guy got a 7 negative. Wow. You get quite a few guys that don't show any improvement. You maintained, and then I have half the team that got positive gains, and then I've got these two guys that really had bad seasons. Um, 3 stars, so those guys look like busts for the most part. Actually, he was a 3 star, but he's got some pretty high skills. All right, well, so anyway, I'm not going to pay a lot of attention to that, but that's how you do training. I am not going to set red shirts. I normally would, but we're going to go ahead and just get past this to the regular season. All right, so part of the regular season is we have games. So if we go to the home page, I've got a couple of emails, training camp report. Okay, here's these two guys have not lived up to expectations. So basically, they turned out to be bad players. Team captains are elected. All right. So we're going to go into roster, and then this is all my players. You can look at ratings. You can look at stats. You can look at depth chart. Now, for some reason, since the latest patch, this is not. It used to default to this screen. I don't know why it defaults to a blank screen when there's not even a blank option on here, but anyway, we're going to AI set all. Again, I'm not going to get into really doing a lot of stuff. We're going to save this. We're going to go into game plan. I'm going to auto set that. Now you can get in here. You can set up your all your stuff. I have been using the auto set, and like I said, I went 10-3 my first year. I'm 11-0 and undefeated, averaging about 42 points a game. So hey, at some point I will probably mess with that, but right now I've got a lot of other things I'm trying to learn about the game. So this is, in your customized playbook. Right now, this is not one of the things. So here's the meat and potatoes. We want to get into recruiting. Here's where I screwed up last time. If you have auto recruit, that lets the computer recruit for you. I'm going to turn that off this time. I did not do it last time. So, I have 21 scholarships this year. I have none assigned out. And I want to look at my positional count. Okay? Now this is completely different from last year because the new game generated a completely new circumstance. So I'm just making a note on my note paper here. I need 1 quarterback and I need 1 free safety. That's what I need to fill my roster out. Running backs, now what I'm looking at, this is how many I have on my roster currently. The minimum number you need to play the game, and how many you will have on your roster next year. So this is taking these players minus your graduating seniors, so 4 minus 2 seniors leaves me 2 players. And this is here so you can look at a glance. Well, I don't have any underclassmen, so yeah, I'm going to need a younger quarterback to go behind these 2 juniors to be my starter in 2 years. Okay, that's what that's telling me. Okay, I have a pretty good spread on my running back, so I really don't need any, and I will have 5, and I only need 3, so I'm good there. I have 4 underclassmen fullbacks. I only need 1, so I'm good there. I have 4 tight ends. I only need 2, but 3 of those guys will be seniors. So I'm going to want to try to get 1 tight end, because remember, when this rolls over, if I don't recruit 1, then my tight end is going to look 0, 0, 1, 3, and I'll have 4 upperclassmen and no lower underclassmen. So I want to go after 1 tight end. I will have 6 receivers, but I am losing 4 this year, so I'm going to put them in a category where I want at least 1 receiver, but it's not mandatory. It's not life or death. Tight end, I think, would be pretty important to get 1. So I'm going to put him in like a I'm going to call it a category 2. I don't need it, but I want it. And then wide receiver will be category 3. I want it, but don't need it, if that makes any sense. Guards, I've got 5, and they're all underclassmen. 4 of them are freshmen. I should have redshirted probably 1 or 2 this year, but again, I'm not. If I was playing long term, I would, but I just want to get through a season of recruiting so we can all work on that together. So again, I don't really need a guard. I'm going to have 4 seniors, so I definitely want to pick up a couple of tackles. I wouldn't mind having a center. I'm going to put them in the same category as my wide receiver. I've got 2 freshman punters, 2 freshman kickers, so I'm set there. I'm going to have 5 defensive tackles, so I'm going to go ahead. I kind of like a good spread. I'd kind of like to still have a freshman in the mix next year. Same thing with defensive end. I'd like at least 1, even though they're going to all be very young. And again, I'd probably redshirt 1 or 2 of these guys this year, but it is what it is. I want to add 1 linebacker because I'm graduating 2. I want to add, I'm going to put a cornerback down in a want but not need. I'd like to add a strong safety. And I need a free safety, and probably because I'm losing 3, I would actually like 2 free safeties, and I would probably like 2 quarterbacks as well. All right, so according to my notes here, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14. So there's 14 positions that I want to fill, and I've got 21 scholarships, so I should be able to do that. All right. Let's talk about recruiting. You have the number of scholarships that you have. Make sure you turn auto recruit off if you want to control it. You've got all these filters. You've got targets and both. We'll talk about that. You've got a ranking and a star system. Here's issue number 2. Okay. Issue number 2 is I have been told that a 3-star can be just as good as a 5-star if you look at their actual ratings. Okay? That's all fine and good. But by the time you start recruiting, I mean, we're only recruiting in the current season, and these players just appeared at the beginning of the season. So I won't see next year's class until this year ends and the game rolls over. But in real life, you're already recruiting kids that are in 7th and 8th grade. You know, it's 2017 and they're already lining up verbal commitments for people in 2019 and 2020. So they're already out scouting kids. We don't have the opportunity or option to do that, and really not sure I want that option. But because I don't have the ability to have any information beforehand, the only thing I have, there's not a scouting service, there's not a combine, there's nothing. The only thing I have is a recruiting rank that the game generates and a star rating. So I've got to believe that these are pretty accurate numbers, that this player is the best player in the country, and he is going to be much better than this 3-star cornerback out of Texas. I just have to believe that. There's no way that he is going to be as good as one of these guys in the top 10 or top 20 or top 50, because that's not realistic. Now, do you find a gem every once in a while, a diamond in the rough? Sure. But most people know who the blue chippers are, and if this is all the game is giving me before I've made a single decision, I have to assume that that's right. So then to have someone come and tell me, well, no, don't get so hung up on the ranking and the stars, you have to actually scout them. Well, I can't scout 3,840 players. I don't have enough points even if I put 1 point, I could only scout 73 players, and it would take me 2 seasons or more at that rate before I actually got a good idea of how good they were. Now, do we need more points? I don't know. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is these numbers here, they damn well should mean something, because that's all I have to go off of to make my initial decisions. Okay? Now, let's get out of the game for a minute. All right? I actually put up a post, and you can go to the Wolverine Studios forums in the college football general discussion, and I've got one called Need a Recruiting Tutorial, and I talk about some of the issues that I was having. Brooks, who is the developer and coder for the game, gave me this link that opens up this guide. And then this guy just recently gave me some feedback, which was actually kind of nice. And I'm going to, as part of this tutorial, try some of his suggestions. So let's take a look at the guide. Okay. This is, there's some good information in here, but what do we want to hit on? Well, recruiting points. Recruiting points, right here, this is the effort that your coaches put towards convincing a player to sign with your program. And this is apples to apples. So if you put 10 points in week 1 and I put 5 points, then you've got a 2-to-1 edge in points, and that's a 50% better chance to sign that player right off the bat. Week 2, you're going to have 20 points. I'm only going to have 10. Okay, week 4, you're going to have 40 points. I'm going to have 20. If he doesn't sign till week 10, you're going to have 100 points. I'm going to have 50. Okay, so now you've got a landslide. Still 2-to-1, but a dominating edge in points to recruit that player to your program. So this is where I kind of went back to, there should be more than one way to skin a cat, but if you don't put 10 points, then you're basically cutting your own throat and killing yourself from recruiting. And that's what's happened to me in this current season. The first year, I put 10 points on everybody, and I still didn't recruit anybody. Now, there's some other things that I really wasn't looking at because I didn't know. But this year I said, well, putting 10 points didn't help. I need to get more players on my board and, have more points into my backup players. Well, my backup players might be the main target for somebody else, which puts me in the same boat where they end up with 100 points and I end up with, 30 or 40 or 20 or whatever the case may be. So basically, you have to put 10 points into recruiting or you can't recruit a player. Not guaranteed 100%, but that's basically a nutshell, and that's what I have been told by somebody that's involved from Wolverine that's in the league about these points. So 10 points, no ifs, ands, or buts. I will note that DISP put in that he puts 10 points on 5-star players, 8 to 10 on 4 stars, but as he says, it's better to put 10 points on all of your targets. Okay, so that's that. Scholarships, who to target, going outside the recommended targets. Well, when I am looking at my list of players, I can look at uncommitted players. I can look at all players, which right now is going to be the same thing. I can look at my players that have committed to me, which I don't have any, and I can look at recommended targets. Okay, recommended targets is kind of the game's internal scouting combine telling you who the players are that you would have the best chance of signing. Okay, now what this says is that's not always true. It does give you recommended targets that's easy to use. However, it is conservative. So just because a player is not here does not mean you cannot get him. Okay, so conservative, aggressive, not impossible. Okay, now the next thing, let's look at our recommended. Again, these are the ones that you should have the best chance to get. My top player is ranked number 4 in the country. Oh, and I am actually glad to see that we have a player ranked number 10 out of Louisiana, because my last playthrough, my top rated guy was number 384 or something like that. Yeah, not very good. So the fact that we actually have one player from Louisiana, well, 2 in the top 35, that's actually good, because Louisiana does produce a large number of blue chip athletes from high school. But anyway, back to here. Recommended targets. My top guy is ranked number 4. Why is that important? Well, if you go outside your recommended targets, meaning if we don't look there, if we look at all, the farther away, moving upwards from your top rated guy on your recommended list, will be harder to recruit. What does that mean? Well, my top rated guy is this guy Carver, the number 4 player. So I should be able to recruit basically anybody. Now let's say you're playing with South Carolina, and your top rated player is number 147. Just to you pull a number. You're not going to be able to recruit the number 1 guy, probably not even players in the top 100, but you could recruit up into the 130s, 120s. But the further away you get from here, the harder it's going to be. So keep that in mind. Now, just again, because I want to try a couple of things that I haven't tried before, I'm going to go with the all, and we're going to kind of play around. That was the timer for this video. I try to keep these down in size to under 30 minutes, just for easy viewing and chunks. So that's it for this video. We'll come back with episode 2. We'll see you next time. Thanks.